What's going on, South by East fans? Welcome back to another traffic report where we talk about the culture, the scriptures, and everything in between. And we would not be true to our name if we did not talk about the Olympics. I am one half of the South by East podcast. My co-host Jonathan is traveling right now, and so I get to take this one on myself. And the Olympics is a worldwide event that people have been tuning into, but this year there's probably been more controversy around things that are happening in the Olympics than the athleticism that's being displayed in the Olympics. And one of those was a situation where Algerian female boxer Imani Khalif caused Italian boxer Angela Carini to tap out within 46 seconds of the match, reportedly screaming out, "It's not right," and then refusing to shake the other boxer's hands. Information soon after came out surfacing that Imani had been disqualified a year prior in a big boxing competition due to possessing an XY chromosome. If you were in middle school biology, you know XY means that it'll be a male. Like XY is a male, XX is female. And so we were like, oh my gosh, this is going out. And I was in Colorado and all this happened with students up in the mountains at a Christian camp. And even in the silence of the mountains, the sound of the clacking of computers and phone screens was deafening as people went to social media and started making their claims known. And we broke into really two camps. One camp saying that trans people should be treated like people and should be allowed to participate in competitive sports in the gender that they identify as. The other side saying women should be protected, especially in competitive sports, and having biological men competing against women is a travesty and it puts them at danger. Shortly after this, more information surfaces, and we realize that Imani Khalif actually has a chromosomal disorder that allows her to possibly have an XY chromosome, but to have developed completely as a female. She lived her entire life as a female. She still identifies as a female, and her body produces a high amount of testosterone. Does not claim to be transgender at all, does not claim to be intersex at all, just female, and has lived this way since birth. Whew. You can hear the eggs sliding down everyone's face, or so you would think. Because if you go to social media still to this day, even with this information surfacing, you'll hear people claiming she is a man. You will hear people claiming it doesn't matter. This shows us how we should participate and deal with transgender people in sports, even though it has nothing to do with this situation at all. Today, I'm not here to stake my claim on either side of this debate. Instead, since we talk about the culture, the scriptures, and everything in between, I want to say and speak about civility, how that relates to us, especially those of us as Christians, how it would relate to our witness, but even to those of us who just want to signal as a good person. How should civility play in how we handle these types of situations? And even though I'm one half of the team today, I wanted to read a post from my co-host Jonathan that I felt like addressed this really, really well. Here's what he said, August 2nd. What happens when we co-sign on the disappointment and anger of someone else without taking a second to think about what we say we value? If we say that we are upset because a human being was devalued, but we devalue another human being in our response, what do we gain? If the person whose offense triggered your anger comes back and apologizes and says they were wrong, would you also apologize for co-signing on inappropriate anger? This is a quote from Angela Carini. It wasn't something I intended to do, as in not shake her hand. Actually, I want to apologize to her and to everyone else. I was angry because my Olympics had gone up in smoke. I don't have anything against Khalif. Actually, if I were to meet her again, I would embrace her. Angela Carini. What I would urge is that we try to take the culture war out of this and actually address the issues and the people and think about the individuals concerned and the real damage that is being done by misinformation. IOC spokesman Mark Adams. They said, I would urge that we take the culture war out of this and actually address the issues and the people and the individuals concerned. How often, when we see a situation that we feel is unjust, do we use people as a prop for our own positions in some sort of culture war? When I was younger, I used to get really angry when some of my LGBTQ friends, and I say this with all honesty, some of my LGBTQ friends would go to Facebook and talk about how much like what they were doing in the moment was like what had happened with the civil rights movement. Part of the reason that I would get so angry about this is because I was still at the time dealing with racial injustice in my life. I never wanted to minimize the suffering of my brothers and sisters and the real points that they had, even if I disagreed with them from some sort of biblical or theological standpoint. I saw them as people, and I thought that their pain was understandable and that they had a right to seek out justice. And I wanted to help them in some situations, but our situations weren't the same. I felt like a token when people used the suffering of myself and others who looked like me to justify actions that should happen for them. Not because we don't both deserve justice, but because our situations aren't the same, and I'm not a project for you. Here in this situation, we have used Imani Khalif and Angela Carini as a prop. Many people are still arguing over the same points on social media because it doesn't and did not matter what actually happened in the ring. All that mattered was that people had a torch to lift up and ignite the flames of what they already felt was a justified culture war and throw those flames at the other side. My friends, here in the intersection, can we choose to live in civility? Can we choose to see people as people? Are there huge issues of injustice going on in our world? Absolutely. Should we use our voice and our platform to address those things? 100%. But if we place people over projects, then we'll make sure that we do our due diligence. And if we get it wrong, that will give us the humility to apologize, because we'll realize that the person that we're trying to defend is now someone that we have railroaded. I personally think that's important. But we want to know what you think. So let's continue this conversation honestly, truthfully, and civilly in the comment section. Like, comment, subscribe. If you're here checking us out on the podcast, we'll see you next week for another episode of the Traffic Reports. You can see the Facebook post as well as an article, even though you can find plenty on your own, I'm sure, but you'll see those in our show notes. We'll see you next time in the intersection.